Math.random. In this video, we will learn how to generate random numbers between any range. Okay. In the previous video, we learned about the Math.random method, which returns a random value between 0 and 1. To help with understanding how the random method works, we're going to use a number line. So, as stated earlier, Math.random generates a random value between 0 and 1. Also, notice that on my number line, on the left side of the orange line is a solid dot and an open dot on the right side of the line. This is because the 0 is inclusive while the 1 is exclusive. Now, back to the code. To help with explaining how we can define our own ranges, I'm going to rewrite Math.random in a different way. Rather than simply writing Math.random, I'm going to write 1 times Math.random plus 0. Now, you may be wondering, what's the point of that? What purpose did that serve? Well, first of all, notice that I didn't change anything yet. Because as you know, when you multiply a number times 1, the answer is that number. And likewise, when you add 0 to that number, the answer is just that number. So as of now, I haven't changed anything yet. That being said, these two values, the number before Math.random and the number after Math.random, are very important when trying to define a certain range to generate random numbers between. And here's how. The number that's highlighted in green, that's being multiplied times Math.random, that number determines the width of our range. Right now it's set to 1. And look at our number line. What's the starting point? 0. What's the end point? 1. What's the end point minus the starting point? 1. Henceforth, 1 is currently our width. The number highlighted in yellow determines the starting point of our range. What number is being highlighted at the moment? 0. Let's look at our number line. What's the starting point of our range? 0. Once again, not a coincidence. The number in front of Math.random determines your width. The number after Math.random determines your starting point. That being said, suppose I want to generate a random number between 0 and 2. In that case, the width of our range is now 2. Thus, the number in front of Math.random needs to be changed to 2, which will now expand my number line to end at 2. Now, suppose I want to generate a random number between 0 and 3. Once again, the starting point is not changing, but the width is now being changed to 3. So the number in front of Math.random will now change to 3, thus extending my number line, the range, to now end at positive 3. Now, suppose I want to generate a random number between 0 and 5. Once again, starting point not changing, but the width is changing to 5. So the number in front of Math.random will change to 5, thus extending the range of our random number generator to end at positive 5. Okay. Now, suppose I want to keep the width the same, but change the starting point to negative 2. Well, in that case, the number in front of Math.random will still remain 5. However, the number after Math.random will change from 0 to negative 2. So now we're adding negative 2. Thus, our range now shifts over 2 spots. Okay? So now we're generating a random number from negative 2 to positive 3. Right? Now, suppose I want the endpoint to be 5 instead of 3. Okay, well, what changes in that case? Well, the starting point still remains the same. It's still going to be negative 2. However, since my endpoint is changing, the width is now changing. What's going to be the new width? Well, what's the endpoint minus the starting point? 5 minus negative 2. What's 5 minus negative 2? Positive 7. So 7 is our new width. So I changed the number in front of Math.random to 7, and thus my range now extends to end at positive 5, while still beginning at negative 2. Now, suppose I want to generate a random number between negative 4 and positive 2. Once again, there are two numbers I need to determine, the width and the starting point. First off, what's the width? The width is the endpoint minus the starting point. Or in other words, 2 minus negative 4. What's 2 minus negative 4? Positive 6. And now, what's my starting point? The starting point is given to us right in the problem description. The starting point is negative 4. Thus, we're going to add negative 4. This expression will now generate a random number between negative 4 and positive 2. One last example. Suppose I want to generate a random number between 1 and 4. Well, in that case, what's going to be the width in this case? What's the end point minus starting point? 4 minus 1 is 3. So 3 will become our width. Now, and what's the starting point? Once again, the starting point is given to us in the problem description. It's positive 1. So we're going to add 1 to Math.random, thus giving us our expression that generates a random number between 1 and 4. 1 inclusive, 4 exclusive. In summary, when trying to come up with the correct formula for generating random numbers within a certain range, you only need to figure out two numbers: the width and the starting point.